Hey, welcome to Raising Vibrations, and you're with Simon today. And I'm going to be doing part 2 of a video series that I created just a couple of, maybe like a month ago, and it was called Planetary Octaves. And I was inspired to actually speak about this information because I felt that if we are to develop and also bring into our awareness a more helpful, a more influential, a more practical way of seeing how powerful astrology can be, then we need to have this really, really wonderful way to understand how the weaving of the energy actually works in the different dimensions in reality. Okay. So my attempt today, and as well as the previous video that I'd created, and for any of you that hasn't watched that video, I would recommend actually watching it first. And right now in the description below is the link to that video, and you can click on that. Or on the right hand side, there will be a playlist that will obviously contain the first video. So that is available there. So why am I doing this again? So like I said, I think it's really, really important for us to really weave the tapestry, the information and a way of seeing astrology from the point of view of how it works with reality. So part 1 really talks about the planetary octaves from the perspective of we each have our karma, and our karma in itself is divided into 2 phases or 2 realities. Okay, we have our higher spiritual state of awareness, and that is something that's more transpersonal, something that we are born into, and we have to kind of just play out. And as it plays out, it kind of shapes the nature of our existence. And then we have the more sort of grounded physical dimensional realities, the more ones that we can understand with our senses and our brain. And of course, that would be then the more, I would say, like the Saturn boundary. This is where we can actually see physical reality. And that's where we have our personality, or the little I. So the planets themselves are actually divided in these 2 dimensions. And so what happens is we go from the archetype of the sun, which would be burning bright. We would have Mercury, we'd have Venus, we would have the moon as an example, or not example, but the moon. We'd have Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn all in the belt of the little I. Okay, so our personal identity to reality. Okay, so for anybody that doesn't understand what I mean by that, I'm talking about your personality, I'm talking about your life, your circumstances, the name that you have been given, the emotional reality that you deal with on a day-to-day basis. That would be your little I and sense of self. Then you have Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, and those are generational planets. Okay, so for most of us on the planet today, we have a large collection of souls that will embody the same generation as us. So for me, I'm part of the Pluto Libra generation, and that means that there are many other souls out there that are learning the Pluto Libra lessons. The Pluto and Scorpio souls, same thing, etc. So generational. Same with Uranus, same with Neptune. Now, Neptune in itself can be a little bit less, or can have less people born under that sign. So I know a couple of souls that are born with Pluto and Libra that in fact all actually have Neptune in Sag. So again, that's a generational thing, but Uranus is not the case. I know a lot of Pluto Libras that have got Uranus in Scorpio, and of course Uranus in Sag, and then many souls with Uranus in Capricorn and Uranus in Aquarius that were Pluto and Scorpio souls. So again, just using those 2 generations, I'm not actually forgetting about you guys, the Pluto and Leos, and the Pluto and Virgos and Sag, because I know that a lot of you guys actually watch that. With, by the way, I'm really, really happy about that. Okay, so let me get back on track here. Planetary octaves. Again, planetary octaves are, in this particular instance, they are the connection between the higher and lower selves, so the planets themselves that represent the higher and lower. And we were dealing with the 3 archetypes of Mercury and Uranus. So Mercury represents the lower mind. This is the monkey brain. This is the nature of how we interact with reality using the phenomena of words, like you can see on the screen here today. And then we have, and that will be short-term memory. And then we have Uranus, which activates the aspect of ourselves that is deep memory process. So most of our memories that are imprinted within our psyche from experiences that can range from last week, Wednesday, that have not been psychologically processed, to when we were, say, for instance, 3 years old, to then when we were in our past lives and stuff like that. This is whole unique identity that we carry with us. And then what we have also with Uranus, it naturally also brings the blueprints of the future. So this is how we would then say that the more higher self is present with us. You know, when you get synchronicities, when you get information that gets given to you in a very fragmented way, and it seems right, it resonates right. So that'll be Uranus. And then we had Neptune and Venus. So we spoke about Venus as being the archetype that relates to our inner relationship to ourselves. It's the most fundamental way that we can see and feel ourselves in every moment. And it's our communication that we have to ourselves. It's the way that we value ourselves and needs and stuff. And it also is the way that we sustain ourselves on the physical plane from the point of view of, this is how much time I'm going to put into this experience. This is what I need in return to validate my time, so therefore I can sustain myself on the earth. Which, by the way, is a very difficult concept for many souls to actually psychologically process. And so I do recommend spending some time actually processing and really anchoring in a deep fundamental understanding of what it means to validate your time on earth as equally as important as when you give it away. You know, in much of the sort of spiritual communities that like to bypass reality, they say that you know, information and knowledge and so on and so forth should be given away for free. And to a certain degree, that is the truth. From the point of view of just information out there like YouTube and what I'm doing with you guys today. But there is a point where in order for you to sustain your existence on the earth and yourself, it's your creative voice that you validate. So for instance, for myself, you know, I work with astrology and I'm getting off track again. I realize that, but I'm trying to really put across the points of the Planetary Octave in a different way. Work as an astrologer, that's your art, and that's what gives you, that's your gifts. And then when you take your gifts and your time together, you put it then that's not something that you just give away for free, because it is your space, it is your voice, it is your existence. Okay, so Neptune in itself then relates to the relationship where we are in devotion. And I think that's where it gets all confusing in that realm, where it's a little bit too right brain orientated. And So what we're dealing with Neptune is that relationship to where we devote ourselves to an experience where we realize that the time that we're putting in is in itself not of service to the little I, but it's of service to something higher than ourselves. It transcends all the boundaries and destroys any limitations that are between myself and another person. That's why somebody that has Neptune in the first house can struggle with these things regarding boundaries, at least, because, of course, your own sense of self and the other person doesn't exist. So everybody got that in terms of Neptune in itself and the relationship with Venus. I'm just quickly running through this so that we can get on to part 2. So then we're dealing with the final one, which is Mars and Pluto. And this one was fascinating to me because in most sort of like older texts that were astrological related, Mars was ruled by Pluto, was ruled by Scorpio, and so was Pluto. Pardon me, Mars ruled Scorpio and it ruled Aries. Okay. Whereas now, if we deeply understand the relationship that Scorpio is, we can clearly see that Mars has got a connection to Scorpio, but it is not essentially rule the Scorpio archetype. Pluto does, simply because of the nature of osmosis. Mars has zero capacity to osmose other than to create a direction. It's Pluto that actually merges the experience. So the reason why that be the planetary octave is because Mars and Pluto essentially are friends together. Okay, Mars is the way that we manifest our desires in the physical plane through our human ego, and Pluto is that underlying reality that exists deep, deep within the soul that transcends the physical senses. It's this energy that moves us in a direction. Okay, so Planetary Octaves 2 is about me taking the astrology chart. This is what we were talking about in part 1 regarding the nature of the phi ratio. And I've just jumped ahead a little here, so I hope you guys are following me. The astrology chart's 360 degrees. We have the golden ratio and its dimensions 360 degrees. We have the phi sensors 5, and then of course the natural nature of how we as human beings are created. So we are all in symmetry in the third dimension. We are all through the way that sacred geometry works. And so when we transcend this limitation, when we transcend the physical dimension, then of course the rules regarding how things work don't operate in linearity. So Pluto does not operate through these dimensions, but it does. Uranus does not operate through these dimensions, but it does. And Neptune does not operate through these dimensions, but it does. So why am I saying but it does? Because from the point of view of the nature of us human beings in physical bodies being able to connect to multidimensional realities, i.e. Pluto, i.e. Neptune and Uranus, then you will need to obviously have a bridge that connects the two. So Uranus is connected with Mercury. Mercury is the lower octave, so therefore it acts. Uranus is transmitted through Mercury and therefore then is part of this symmetry here. Does everybody follow me with this? And of course with Neptune and Pluto as well. So that's really, really clear. Okay, so what I wanted to do for everybody in part 2 was show you how the natural zodiac operates through these dimensions. Hopefully giving you a deeper understanding of why, especially when you follow this channel, Raising Vibrations itself, and you hear me speak, what I'm sharing with you is the actual nature of what we deal with on a day-to-day basis, including the manifestation of this video. Okay, so the manifestation of this video and the manifestation of you watching this video comes from these angles that you are looking at right now. Okay, so we'll start off with Pluto, or should I say Scorpio, Pluto, okay? Pluto is an archetype essentially that correlates to merging, desire, choice. Everything stems from choice. So anybody that comes to me or tries to put the information across that says that these types of like numerology, for instance, 13 sign astrology, Vedic astrology, evolutionary astrology, all of this type of stuff, there are multiple ways to decode reality, but fundamentally the archetype of Scorpio itself cannot change, or the archetype of choice cannot change. So everything begins with choice, and so therefore everything is Pluto. It is desire. Okay, it is from desire that leads us in the direction, and that is this green line that is represented here. Okay, from desire then leads choice, and that is Mars. So the connection between the higher octave of Pluto and the lower octave of that is Mars is our fundamental relationship between a deep psychological transpersonal reality, which is desire, its energy, and the way that we act on that energy to move us in physical form. So I had a desire to share this information because I desire to open up the consciousness of the collective regarding astrology to see how powerful it is. That is my Pluto. As soon as I made the choice, my Mars kicked in, physical senses. I walked into the office. I put up all the recording equipment, etc., created the graphic. And here we today are now experiencing that reality. Okay, your choice to click on the video and then watch this and continuously watching it is osmosing with the experience, learning something about it. And then once you have actually made that choice, the reality you're experiencing after that is now very different to the one that you had before watching this video, because obviously now you have new information to process. You see how that works? So the relationship between Mars and Pluto is that choice and action, and how it manifests from non-physicalness into physicalness in every day. Your choice to go to work, your choice to go to the toilet, your choice to eat food, etc. So the relationship between higher and our lower. The red line in itself is really just our instinctual need for security. And what happens is that we always make choices either to stay with something that makes us feel secure, or we always choose to go, hey, I want to open up my consciousness to something that's new. And it's really our relationship to absorbing new information that is what this red line and this blue line is all about. There's a trine happening between Scorpio and Cancer. Cancer is the self-identity. Scorpio is the osmosis. So what we osmose with becomes a natural part of our self-identity. It's just up to us whether or not we're going to respond due to anxiety or excitement. And that's the red line. Okay, cool. So part 2, Neptune and Venus. This is a little bit more complicated here. And again, what you're looking at in terms of these lines and angles is the relationship that other archetypes have to each other and how they influence each other. Okay. So what you're looking at here is the 2 green lines. Okay. So firstly, Taurus is Venus, Libra is Venus. So we'll start with Venus. Venus in itself reflects the nature of how we inwardly relate to ourselves and then how we attract people into our lives based on how we validate ourselves. So if you're somebody that likes sports and you're into these types of things, you will naturally attract this type of social environment that will represent a similar set of value systems in accordance with yourself. And the reason for this is because we need to actually go out into the world and meet other people and understand our needs and relationship values in comparison to other people. So naturally, Venus correlates to an inner and outer relationship to things. The Taurus part is our inner relationship. The Libra part is the external relationship. Okay. So again, and that's when we'll do the things like, hey, I would like to teach you this, and in return, I would like that. Okay. That would be the Venus part, the physical dimensional reality. Then, of course, we know that Neptune is ruled by Pisces. And so therefore, the quincunx that goes to Neptune, to Venus over there, is how we then devote ourselves to others or to a thing, and how we then do not receive anything in return other than the deep sense of empathy, compassion, the desire to want to do something, to the desire to surrender one's sense of identity or ego to it. Now, in each of our lives, at some point through our spiritual awakenings, we have experienced things where we've had to let go, we've had to dissolve, and we've just had to trust. That's Neptune. You didn't have any control. You were put in a situation where that control was not even offered to you in any way whatsoever, and you had to let go. That is the Neptune part of the Venus-Neptune relationship. It's how our inner relationship to ourself, and this is the line now that you're looking at, from Pisces all the way to Taurus. Okay, that's a sextile, and Pisces and Taurus help each other develop our inner relationship to the source, and how we then understand that inner relationship to the source through surrender. Okay, and so the connection here is the higher octave of Neptune teaches us to surrender, and the lower octave of this energy pattern is how we then develop that relationship to others, and how those other people mirror to us the inner relationship that we have with ourselves. So each of us comes into this existence, we have our karma, we naturally project it out into the world. Existentially, it reflects it back to you. So Venus acts as the inner outer relationship self, and Neptune shows us how we are spiritualizing that inner and outer relationship to the self. And we do that through what relationships we form with things. So for me, for instance, I create this YouTube videos. I do it because I'm teaching myself how to be able to explain stuff that is very complicated in a very simple way so that everybody can get it, but also at the same time, not like cutting away awesome information that can really open up ourselves to deeper dimensions of reality by making it too simple. And so this is my practice tool, and hopefully I get it right most of the time. So, and then I just wanted to add over here that the green line between Cancer and Neptune is how we surrender to that process, how we naturally align our sense of small identity in something that is larger than ourselves. So how do we dissolve ourselves into the ocean? Imagine if you're just about to go into the ocean. Look how small you are in comparison to the ocean. That is the relationship between the little I and the big I. In contrast to ego and our universal sense of self. Okay, so the quincunx is really just create these kind of crises within ourselves that develop that deeper inner need for our relationship to something that is higher than what this is. And that's what Neptune does. It says there's something more here. So you surrender to the process, reflect on it inwardly. And as you reflect upon that, the divination that you find from that experience becomes the way that your inner relationship changes in that sense. Okay. And then finally, with Mercury and Uranus plays out this way. So the threading works like this. The first thing to note is that between Gemini and Capricorn, we have this paradox where we can't actually say two words at the same time. Okay, try an experiment right now. Try and actually say one and two simultaneously. It's impossible. And the reason why that's the case is because the brain works in a sequential way. And so therefore anything that is time constricted, Capricorn, that is trying to be described through the mind, Gemini, can only be done through a linearity, one by one. And so the Quincunx shows us that mental association with time, past, present, future. And then what we have is the Quincunx between Aquarius and Virgo. And it's Virgo that is what creates the sequential events, because it needs to have things in a order in order for it to not be in chaos. So now what we have here is this interesting relationship between Capricorn and Aquarius, because Aquarius goes, I want to have everything in randomness, and Capricorn goes, I want to have everything in order. So you can now imagine the quincunxes that are taking place here. Okay, Aquarius breaks routine, and Gemini cannot manifest in random sporadic ways because it is constricted by Capricorn's need for control or order, right? And you can see here that Gemini and Aquarius are earth signs, and these are earth signs. So they naturally are not compatible in the sense of their relationship together. So what naturally occurs when we have Uranus and Mercury is that Mercury goes, okay, I need everything in linearity. Uranus goes, I'm just going to send you random blueprints from the future that are going to be sporadic, but you won't know what time frame they're in, because every time you make a formation or a relationship to something that comes from the outside framework of boundaries or of Saturn, it won't have the time frame that you can process mentally. So you have to deeply trust that whatever it is that you are getting flashes of insights for must be the way, and you just follow the breadcrumbs until eventually when you look backwards and you've looked at your footprints, you'll see there's a sequential event or a sequential line, and that then becomes the natural way that you see how that path was actually unfolding for you beautifully and eloquently. It's pretty neat. It is pretty neat when you understand that relationship. So whenever you've got like Mercury, transiting your third house, not your third house, your 11th house, or Mercury trining Uranus, or Uranus in your third house, these things have become very highlighted for you. And the whole purpose when you have actually these relationships between lower octave Mercury and higher octave Uranus is how the fragmentation comes into play through puzzle pieces. And it's only when you put the final puzzle piece together, then does the whole picture reveal itself to you. Yeah? Cool. All right, guys. Well, I really hope that you enjoyed that video and you learned something from it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe button. I'd appreciate that. And if you don't know anything about my newsletter, it's the best way to get all the information that I send out to anybody. And that link will actually be in the description below. So check that out. I'm starting a new astrology school this coming week on Sunday. So if you're interested in that, please send me an email. Otherwise, check out Raising Vibrations' website. And on there is the beginner's course astrology, all the information. The dates obviously won't be correct because that will be from the previous one, but the price as well as what you'll get to learn, etc., will all be there. And if anybody's got any questions or suggestions they would like to share with me regarding future videos, please let me know. I'd highly appreciate that. If you want to send me some stuff that you want me to talk about, I am cool by that. And finally, I'm busy setting up live streams. I've been doing them for quite some time now, 3 or 4 weeks, so not really that long to be honest. But I've been trying to get it in a way where it's really, really good for everybody's time. So at the moment, I'm kind of thinking of ways in which I can deliver the information to you that's actually practical for your time, as well as my way of actually giving you some good stuff. So I'm thinking every single Friday at this point. It was a really big hit. Let me know in the comments below if you felt that that was something that was okay for everyone. Otherwise, I can always maybe see if I can adjust it differently. So yeah. All right. Fantastic, guys. Have a wonderful week, and I'll speak to you soon.